Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum, tonight we're going to review the week, some of the issues we'll be looking at. Prominent during the week, government banning FOC. Another report coming out questioning President Museveni's leadership style. The group is called the International Crisis Group, based out of Belgium. We talk about the Interparliamentary Union meeting that ended this week and the death of Malawi's President, Dr. Bingu Mutharika, as well as the IGG, why he's not being appointed. His authority has now been challenged. We don't know what will happen. Maybe the President will appoint him substantively and give him 2 deputies. Our guests tonight, Honorable Mike Sebalu, Ugandan representative at the East African Legislative Assembly, coming from the NRM party, is not yet crossed to FOC. You're most welcome, Honorable Sebalu.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This is first from IPU.
Our moderator, and I just want to bring greetings from the East African community in general and the East African Legislative Assembly in particular. And I do hope we are going to have a 1 hour fruitful discussion.
We're also joined by Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, a legal consultant at AKIJUL. You're most welcome, Nicholas.
Well, thank you very much and good evening, listeners.
Mr. Vincent Mayanja, Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party, also a veteran journalist. Most welcome, Mr. Mayanja.
Thank you, Edmond. Good evening, listeners and viewers.
And Mr. Charles Rwomushana, former Head of Political Intelligence at State House. You're most welcome, Charles.
Good evening, listeners. I think you keep describing Charles as a former. What is Charles now? Let's learn about them. They should worry so much about the future.
Maybe some springs will take him to another place very, very soon.
Just an independent thinker and critic.
In this country, we don't value thinkers much, do we? Well, Honorable Mike Sebalu, government banning the FOC, is that a good thing to do? Will it solve that problem, if there ever was a problem?
I think it just depends on which side one is looking at it. Definitely, if there are provisions like was quoted, fitting into the status of what FOC is doing and which is unlawful, then I think they can be brought to order. But for me, the most important thing is not to ban them, but it is to guide them. They need guidance.
How do you guide them?
Some of the things they are doing out of disrespect for laws and maybe ignorance of some of the laws, but banning would not be a solution in my view. But I think the police should always be available to give them guidance. If they want to demonstrate, they should follow the routes that are designed by the police for them, and they should be in position to respect the law. So the police is there, and maybe I may want to use this opportunity to call upon the FOC people to behave with civility. I mean, you can oppose, you can have divergent ideas, but you do it in a more civil manner and respect for authority, because we are talking about the rule of law here. The rule of law is not only for the one enforcing it, but even it's an obligation for all responsible citizens, and I want to wish that they are actually responsible citizens, so that they operate within the confines of the law and they put their points across. I think they can be heard if they do it in a more civil way, and they could attract more interest. But the way they are handling themselves, wanting to use confrontational means all the time, even where it is absolutely not necessary, I really find it a little disturbing. But definitely, I wouldn't vote for banning. I would encourage that the rule of law takes root in terms of the police doing its work, and call upon them to cooperate with the police if they have any activity they want to undertake.
So you talk about breaking the law, you talk about walking to work.
No, definitely walking to work is not breaking the law, but I think you need to respect authority.
When they say don't go this place,
police says, please, let's keep the downtown, the central business district free of any disturbance. You definitely appreciate there are people who come to this city to earn a living, and if your activities are going to make their life difficult,
don't go there.
You are then compounding the problems, because you are talking about cost of living, but there are those who want to work and be able to meet their ends, but you're even making life difficult for them to earn a living. So if you want to make a point, like Kololo is there, you can go there, make a point. The media will always get you wherever you are, and your point will be put across. But the idea of wanting to go to active places, you go downtown, Nakasero, people are, it can lead to deaths, it can lead to an environment that is not desirable in my view.
Okay. Of course, some people have said that the only person that can be identified with the FOC is Matthias Puga, and he's never been seen in the walk to work. He addresses press conferences, and you don't see much of him.
Speaking about the rule of law, I think it's important for me to respond and provide legal guidance. In respect of these, because there have been attempts by the states to outlaw FOC. We have had suits before in courts for having unlawful assemblies, unlawful societies. These suits have all been dismissed, even before the accused persons were put to their defense. So that attempt having failed, you therefore see the state then invoking the provisions of sections 56 through sections 66 of the Penal Code Act. The essence of that section is that the Attorney General has got the powers to declare any society an unlawful society. Now, what need to be understood is the effect of that declaration. The effect of that declaration is therefore that the organization of that society becomes unlawful, it cannot carry out any activities, that all its members will therefore not be allowed, all office bearers of that society will not be allowed to hold any other office in any other society for 2 years unless they have the consent of the Attorney General. It also means that the minister will appoint somebody to manage FOC, take care of its assets, liabilities.
It's like going into receivership.
Exactly, and wind it up. Now that said, I think we've got to put that in context. The context that I need to emphasize here is that the Penal Code Act, and in particular sections 56 through section 66 of the Penal Code Act, were enacted in June of 1950. It's a relic of a colonial law that in the recent past has not been invoked really. Now, the framers of our constitution
in 1995
foresaw these problems and therefore enacted in the Constitution Article 74. Now, Article 74 essentially saved all legislations that have been in existence before the Constitution. So all laws that predate the Constitution have been saved. However, there is a proviso to that article, which is clause 2 of the article, which in effect says that all existing laws and legislations will be interpreted, read, with necessary adaptations, exceptions and qualifications to bring it into conformity with our Constitution.
1995.
Now, evidently, without necessarily even asking for an opinion of court, sections 56 through sections 66 of the Penal Code Act is unconstitutional and therefore needed to have been read with necessary modifications, adaptations and exceptions to bring it into conformity with the elaborate Bill of Rights. And I can go on and on and on about the Bill of Rights. I can cite National Objective number 2, the first clause, which says that governance of this country shall be based and government shall promote the participation of people in their own governance, which includes, among others, influencing government policy through activism. Article in the Bill of Rights provides for the freedom of association and assembly. I need also mention here that Article 43, which is always the article used to justify derogation.
Lawful assembly.
Yes.
Yeah, lawful assembly.
Yes.
Article 43, which is normally used or invoked to justify derogation of rights, provides that any such derogation must be those that are acceptable, demonstrably acceptable in a free and democratic society.
Yes.
Now, all democracies are premised on the basis of the exchange of ideas, on exchange of views, on activism. the actions of the Attorney General therefore offends the provisions of our Constitution. But lastly, the Attorney General banned F4C without necessarily according F4C a chance of being heard. It offends the principle of natural justice that someone who sits in a formal sits there.
You can't say the one.
No, he's really definite. Treat him with some decorum. You may not agree.
Exactly.
But refer to the other
this is very unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate development at this time of Uganda's independence, that we can really resort to an archaic law on our law books to solve a problem that can be solved through dialogue. Because time and again we have already told the government that what has befallen the country is beyond you. You require everybody on board.
Beyond the sitting government.
Yes.
Go on.
You require everybody on board, sit down and talk to them, and then you find a middle ground. Secondly, I thought that at this time in our history, it should never be the rule, is it the rule by law?
The rule of law.
Instead of the rule of law.
Yes.
And I would really think that what they should have done is that if you feel that the message these people are giving out is contradictory to what you think is the fact, then you engage them. And I welcomed the idea last year in April when an NRM person called Fred Bamwine started up a group called, was it called what? Citizens something.
Yes.
To counter, I don't know, I don't remember the name, but to counter what F4C was doing.
What did they do? Plant flowers or what?
I don't know what they did. But I think they have lost the debate. Now they are resorting to high-handedness in handling this.
But I think that is there.
Well, if
the F4C doesn't have any qualitative. This is education. This is not debate.
That is go to the market and eat fish.
I think that is the Honorable Sebalu's view. Well, they go to, it's the people to decide, not you. Let you go organize some rally somewhere, tell them your viewpoint, allow them to go there, tell their viewpoint, and Ugandans are very good at deciding what is right for them. The last thing I want to address is that whether I ban or not, and whether we agree with what F4C does or not, we need to look at the general picture.
Yes.
Because when you start getting such things in any country, then you are really deteriorating to a different level.
What kind of level?
Of course, the levels of Idi Amin, the level of Milton Obote, and I think we don't need really to go that far. We should really come back and address ourselves to the issues.
My brother is saying it's the most unfortunate decision. My view is that this was the most brilliant decision of modern times.
Go on.
And NRM would raid, and it's going to be for the reason for this delay. Because my view here was confront the other time we paid them they are liable to confront this in time and suppress them as quickly as possible, or they go and you go. They have now grown, they will pay.
Are they going?
No, you see, Al-Shabaab was an organization. It certainly didn't start with this kind of equipment that it has. It started slowly and it has organized. And now Mali is divided into two.
Yes, the Tuareg rebels.
Yeah, this guy started on camels. And now Mali is in confusion. If you're talking about rights, the religious leaders have organized work. Working is not a preserve of the F4Cs. Yes. The religious leaders have organized work. They were carrying the cross of Jesus Christ. I belong to the same religious. I'm a Catholic. And I saw on the cross of Jesus Christ there was a banner carried by the Archbishop saying, I want this, what. You ask mankind. You ask God. If you want, just let him ask God. You don't ask these human leaders. But nobody thought that at him. Even if I was a commander, I don't agree with him. I don't agree with his method. If you want peace for the world, you pray to God. You pray to God and God will bring peace on us. You don't need to go telling presidents. God be a small people. God is supreme. But he didn't think. You don't need to agree with him. Let me finish my point. You don't need to agree with him, but you don't need to tear gas him because he was not inconvenienced. And they moved, and their meeting has ended where? The designated place. They had their own routes. They didn't inconvenience anybody. Yeah. Now, but what happens with FOC? Whenever they go, even when police gives them peace, when they are ending, they throw stones at it.
The police do not dish out peace.
Yeah, no, even when police, because even when police has not categorized wisdom, they are ready with the stones. And you go and carry out a study in town here, it's extremely very difficult to get 10 stones.
Oh.
Yeah, just 10 stones throw. Yes. In town here, you get them. But these fellows have stones, they have a mechanism of reinforcing with the stones. It is the only way. It's the only way.
I want to ask him.
You go to the ground and tell me, in town here you can get a ride and you have people, you can reinforce 10 stones. You can look for them that way. Let me finish my point. It's the only, they are the only landers in the world, in a sovereign state, where people have asked for guns. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. Where do you arrive at those kind of groups of people? Now, starting the precursor of the civil war in Syria, that's how it began. Starting the precursor of the civil war in 1980 here, that is how they began. Very simple demonstrations, and the guerrillas are using them as cover. So they made a mistake to have allowed this thing to grow. They should suppress it, whether it is FA1C, whether it is A2C, whether it is A4C, whether it is. It's about the survival of the state and the country.
All right, listen, this is Spectrum on Radio. What is this statement?
I've banned FDC.
Everyone is just excited.
Before we go to break, I would like us to talk about the Interparliamentary Union. 30 billion was spent on planning this thing. We didn't see too many flowers planted. We didn't see too many hotels put up, but the guests came and went. Some of them are still around for Easter, I believe. Was this money well spent? Did we get value for it?
Yeah, I definitely. I think it was a good meeting in town. Getting all these parliaments and all their speakers in town is something to write home about. The meeting itself was very organized. I really would like to thank the police and then the security organs for keeping peace during this period. Because at the end of the day, we need to look at the image of the country when you are holding such a meeting. The Uganda branded itself because there are people who have been out there listening to stories of FOC and other people, but they have been in town on the ground and they really saw the situation in this place going on very well. And I think even the turnover, because these people came in town, the turn-up has been the highest ever. The last time that it was held, the biggest turn-up ever recorded was about 1,300 or 500.
And this time?
This time around, it was well over 1,700, coming to 2,000. That was the biggest turnout ever in this meeting. The quality of the debate was good. They arrived at very important resolutions. Our President gave a very good opening statement. We have had occasion to meet with many of the delegates who really rated him very highly in terms of intellectual discourse and deep analysis of global issues. So generally the image of Uganda out of this meeting is Uganda has gained a great deal in terms of its image, in terms of its visibility. The media houses have been here. So it has been a good meeting, and I want to congratulate the Right Honorable Speaker Kadaga and the team, the commissioners and MPs. I think the 9th Parliament have already recorded, so bringing it to Africa, bringing it to East Africa, and Uganda in particular is something to write home about.
Mr. Mayanja.
Edmond, I had an opportunity today to talk to one of the delegates from Europe.
Yes.
He's a friend, and he attended this meeting. I agree with Honorable Sebalu that the organization was good, was superb. Whether it was worth 30 billion shillings, that's another issue to debate.
Investigate later.
You think we should
as far as the main purpose of such a big conference for Uganda is concerned, I think it was a lost opportunity.
In what sense?
Because when you get so many policy makers from all over the world, what you want is to sell your country.
Yes.
To sell your country, first of all, as an investment destination. You sell your country as a tourist destination.
Yes.
But I think
As a beacon of democracy.
But I think what was in Kampala when the conference was taking place does not warrant anybody to guarantee that when you go and invest in Uganda, then you are safe. I was talking to this gentleman and he told me that, I slept in Selena.
Yes.
But in the Serena Gardens, there were small tents everywhere with the military. What is happening? Are you at war? I think that's not the image the organizers of this conference wanted. I think they made the whole situation look very, very, very bad. It was militaristic. It was they turned the city into a garrison state. I think that is the issue that was lost.
I think that delegate was not security conscious, because we need to appreciate the backdrop that Uganda is a target of international terrorism.
Okay.
Uganda was struck, innocent people were struck just while watching football. Now imagine how these people would celebrate when they get this kind of catch. So that delegate was not one of those who know that there is international terrorism, and that was in their best interest.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We'll go for a break. We'll be back.
Special fares to the US, London, China, and India, with extra baggage allowance on selected flights. To book your flight, contact your local travel agent or call us on 041-7800-900 or book online at qatarairways.com/UG. Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
Terms and conditions apply. It used to be that when we paid our bills, we had both feet on that ground for ages in a long line of strangers. But now, we pay bills instantly with our feet relaxed in front of the TV while we watch football with friends. You don't have to queue anymore. Pay your utility bills with Airtel Money, a simple, secure and instant money transfer that leaves you with all the time to do the things you love. Pay your bills, send and receive money, top up, access your bank account and withdraw Airtel Money across all InterSwitch ATMs countrywide. So, visit any Airtel shop today and register your SIM card. Airtel Money helps your money do more.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He is just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight we're reviewing the week. We're looking at the A4C having been banned, the former A4C, now no longer a legal entity. We've spoken about that. Right now we're going to talk about the President Museveni's leadership style being questioned. Our guests tonight, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, Honorable Mike Sebalu, Ugandan representative at the East African Legislative Assembly, Mr. Vincent Mayanja, Deputy Secretary General of the DP, and Mr. Charles Rwomushana, former head of political intelligence at State House. You wanted to say something about the IPU?
Yeah, my wish is that these delegates did not look at the number plates of the buses in which they were traveling.
Go on.
Yeah.
Why?
Go on. Because the number plates were Kenya. Yes. Really, Uganda government, can't we buy buses for human beings? Because those things we have here are lorries built here in Nairobi. Now, if we have built hotels, what is very difficult with buying these? I've even seen them in a convoy going back to Nairobi. Really?
That is the spirit.
We even have buses from school. And then we spend 1.5 million shillings per delegate per day.
Yes.
That's too much money. That's too much money. Well, there is something fundamental wrong.
Also says
you look at 30 billion. That average is still
well, that's one man's word.
That is still too high.
I've increasingly become disillusioned by these high-sounding associations of politicians that come and make resounding statements, because over time we have.
But the FOCs.
You're
not disillusioned.
Can I make the point? Of course, you can't associate FOC and the IPU. They are different. I mean, at different levels. So I've become increasingly disillusioned and began to question whether these kind of associations actually have meanings to the common man. Because we have had here the Commonwealth heads of governments meeting. There were declarations, there were pronunciations, there were commitments, and these commitments are never carried forward. For me, what should interest me most is the commitment of these leaders to actually do the things that concern the common person, and not make these high-sounding resolutions.
You even don't need a resolution of IPU for you to take health very seriously. You don't need to be told by the whole world that your women should not have bath.
I think
you can give us some lessons on international diplomacy.
We should appreciate that the way the world is moving now, there are different levels of engagement. So issues of international diplomatic engagement should not be left to executive arms only. It is important that the people's representatives do engage.
Well, to
decision making. So I think it is something serious. Don't just imagine it is a waste of time.
Nicholas Opiyo, a report by the ICG, that's the International Crisis Group, indicates that President Museveni's leadership style is becoming not such a good thing. Government has dismissed this report, saying the NRM is an all-inclusive government. Now, this report came at a time when the Uganda Youth Network gave another warning, saying tribalism and nepotism are becoming big dangers. What's your reading of this report?
Well, before I respond, let me just share with you two events. That I was part of the process of the Uganda Youth Network, attempting to mobilize the youth of this country to begin to look beyond tribalism, beyond divisionism, and look at issues of national cohesion. That has come as a realization of the deep-seated tribal and ethnic tensions in this country. Secondly, the Bahima this week were entirely offended by public statements made by a presenter on a TV program, and were very incensed about the ethnic stereotyping, and are in a process of seeking redress for that.
Now, legal redress?
No, just redress. I don't know whether it's going to be a legal redress or whatever it is. The TV program called the Bahima an incestuous group, ones that sleep with their relatives, ones that kill their kids who are mentally, So all these kind of things, for me, validate the report by the ICG. Because the report by ICG, I've had a chance to look at it in detail. It's a very factual report. It's a report that traces ethnic division and patronage as a tool of governance in this country from independence, and essentially argues that the NRM government has simply adopted this, used it for its own benefit and its own convenience at different stages of its stay in power. So this report, I think, don't dismiss this report because of what you hear. Read the details. It is factual. This report quotes the World Bank report that talks about corruption that is being used in Uganda as a tool of patronage. Talks about Transparency International report. It talks about Uganda being the most corrupt country. It talks about the U.S. government
being the most democratic,
the most corrupt
country. Where?
In East Africa.
Okay.
Yeah. It talks about a report by the U.S. government here about the economic climate in this country, that corruption is what sustains this regime. This report Corruption is what sustains this regime. It's a tool of governance. It's a tool of patronage. These are things that are in the public fora, and it's just being restated by this report. And I think instead of dismissing it, we must begin to address the core concerns raised by this report, because this report is factual.
Honorable Mike Sebalu.
No, I disagree with this report, with due respect.
Have you read it?
I disagree with the conclusion of the report. The conclusion. I disagree with the conclusion.
How many pages does it have?
And
47-page report.
I disagree with the conclusion, and I think I'm entitled to my view.
Go on, sir.
If you agree with it 120%, that is the conclusion. The conclusion raised, and you know this one.
Not heckling tonight.
You are heckler. Go on. And I don't want to engage in that.
Go on.
The conclusion.
Because of the movement.
Because my view is that, like he has quoted Uganda being the most corrupt in East Africa, definitely that is not factually correct. Although Uganda has some good corruption in it.
Is the most corrupt. Go on.
The report is very clear in East Africa. It was listed in order, and definitely Uganda was not. But I think, for me, the only beauty I see in this report and many other reports is that of late so many people are picking a lot of interest in Uganda.
Yes.
There is this excitement about each one producing a report about Uganda.
It's like FOC for that.
Not FOC, but either there is good money for it, or there are other motivations that there is very good interest. And that goes to show the level of democracy in this country. I mean, all these people come, they make their conclusions, they do everything, and we've always moved. But I want us to appreciate that when one talks about President Museveni's leadership style, I think we've all seen that he's consultative. He uses quite a great deal of consultative arrangements. Maybe people who are not privy may say, because the focus is at work, the governments operate through their cabinets. Yes. He consults his cabinets. And when you talk about consulting an inner circle, I don't know of any system where there is no inner circle. Because even in the UK,
yes.
Even in the everyone is always there. They are always, even within cabinet. Even in church.
Can I just say even Jesus had an inner circle.
Even Jesus had a prayer. He didn't consult everyone. They are consulting the there are two landmarks.
Yes.
Look at the process. He was involved in the constitutional making process, which led to the constitution.
Yes.
That is a foundation, and the consultative process and the level. And if you say that leadership is restricted, then that would never have been the case. Someone would, because the NRC wanted to turn themselves into a constituent assembly and adopt a more a constitution for this country. The president was on record and said no. That is when we started getting adult suffrage, because at that time Parliament was being elected under electoral college system. The president said, let's go get people's representatives.
1993.
They come, and that is a landmark.
Right.
If someone is going to, because it is a big landmark within our history, even the level of consultation and the level of structural leadership, you have LC1 doing their bit, LC3. So really, I personally don't agree that the leadership style does not. There could be a few people consulted. I don't disregard that, but largely there is a lot of consultation in the caucuses. The NRM caucus is one of such organs that is regularly consulted. So that is my take on that.
Yes, I can just say, and very, very briefly about the subject, that in a situation like this, there is always a temptation to try to kill the messenger. I think we just need to look at the facts in these reports.
Well, give us the facts. You are a journalist yourself. You've been a journalist for many years.
Yes, I've concluded long ago that what is perpetuating President Museveni in power is a patronage system through corruption and even through distribution of jobs. That's what is keeping him in power. And if we cannot address that, and we just sweep that below the carpet, then we are going to create a problem for the future. Let's address those issues
through corruption and
patronage.
Patronage?
Yes. And patronage. And he has perfected it.
Patronizing over so many millions and you get your 58%. That is an interesting patronage. He is in power because of a mandate given to him by the majority of the
Ugandans. They don't know whether when he won in 2011, it was because of his popularity or because of the size of his purse.
For the division of the opposition.
And it isn't that to the So we need to address those things. Let's not just, defend things out of because we are in NRM or whatever. Let's address these issues. They are going to kill this country. We need to move forward and forget about this.
What should we do if we want to get
What we need to do is what I suggested even in the first item. Let the government engage. Let the government engage with whoever, with the religious leaders, with the cultural leaders, with political leaders. That's the solution for this country. And if we don't do that, we are going to regret. And the generations to come are going to blame us.
What's the relevance of elections? We just had an election. There was one.
Elections in Africa. Elections in Africa cannot represent what is on the ground. I want to tell you that when the people in Egypt just raised up against Mubarak,
yes,
he had just won a year ago, and he won over 90% of the vote.
And Mubarak was not subjected to university. Was not a subject of universal adult suffrage, and that's where people go wrong. They always quote it.
I will want to confess that I have not read the report.
Yes.
But I don't want to think that these researchers are more experts than we are. We are also here, we are feeling the person on the ground. And certainly there are certain things that we must correct.
Certain
things that we must correct.
Yes.
Or certain situations that if you are very sure you take advantage of. In the trial of Rukutana, Sam Kutesa, and Honorable Nansasra, Rukutana does not talk a roti, but he will survive. His is to put on his suit and hide behind the desk. Those with the big ranks let them fight.
So
now, if he had been tried with this group,
he would have survived.
He by now would be on the streets, walking very free. You see,
wine in the evening.
Jim, Mukura, and there was the third one, Dr. Kamj. The two were arrested. Jim was crossed the border and went to London. By the time he came back, the toilet system in Rosara was perfect, and the beddings had been prepared. They even had TVs and etc. Now, that was him.
Is that factual or is it fantasy?
Yeah, it happens.
Okay, go on.
Now, for the case of Tessa, as the constitution, as the trial is being arranged, certain provisions in the law have been removed. One of them is that when you are committed to High Court for trial, your bail lapses. So if Honorable Kenya had been tried after, he wouldn't have gone to Rizara. So you see, there are people, even when they are anticipated to have committed crimes, arrangements must be made as quickly as possible, but they don't go to Rizara. If the crimes now removing the notice, they will remove them and they are not convicted. You see, this is what you now need to sort out, and I think that is making people extremely very apprehensive, because a constitutional court cannot hold that the IGG is not constituted, therefore the decisions will be unconstitutional. But this only works for these three you are seeing here. It does not work for those who are convicted yesterday. Which kind of court is this?
All right, we have to move forward. Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. You can send us your text messages. You might not be able to call in tonight, but you can send your text messages. What you do is type the word Spectrum. Question, message, or comment, send it to 7197. That is 7197. Type the word Spectrum, message, question, or comment, send it to 7197. Let's talk about the IGG. Staying with you, Charles Rwomushana. Let's talk about this ruling by the Anti-Corruption Court that the IGG cannot execute anyone, can't carry out its powers because it's not fully constituted. What does it mean?
Yeah, that's the most rapid decision you can make. I have followed that constitution. I don't know what happened with our judicial system. Actually, for you lawyers, people need to strip themselves and begin working here. Because those lawyers appear to be shielded, appear to be protected, but they have killed the justice system. The way they hold the things. Why do they try people like this? They should leave them. Because they try them, they will create unnecessary, very complicated precedents. Which judges are going to convey this kind of problems? They can't. So the IJJ was properly constituted. Where did they see it? Where did they have some Kutesa, Rukuta, and all those lawyers? Where did they realize that the IJJ is not properly constituted? When it has convicted very many people who stole grasshoppers, who stole the same that I didn't say Unswa. But when it comes to them who have stolen the billion, it is now when you realize that it is not properly constituted. Does it take a second if you can constitute cabinet in a week? Does it take a second to constitute the IJJ? So the IJJ is properly constituted, but it will not be properly constituted when it is on trial in case. That is the way they should have made it that way. That it can continue prosecuting other people who have been involved in corruption, but it is not properly constituted when it comes to these 2 3.
Charles Rwomushana.
Now, this is not a crisis group. Mine is not a crisis with me.
Nicholas Opiyo, give us the legal ramifications of it.
Well, you see, the decisions coming out of the Constitutional Court sends a very mixed signal to the people out there, because not so long ago the same questions came up before the same court in respect of Bukenya, and the court held that the office of the IJJ had the powers to prosecute him. Now 2 months down the road there's a different decision,
so we should have them arrested.
And I think that it would perhaps, in my view, be proper to give a chance to the Supreme Court to make a decision on this matter.
The Supreme Court
Court, because I think that a lot of discussions and debate, and what Charles is saying is actually a popular view that's being held.
I'm very disappointed
that you can apply justice actually selectively, and that's worrying. But the implication of this ruling, I must
even the Jimway's case, they heard the IJJ was
duly
one had the power to do it and was really constituted.
Yeah. So I think what this essentially means is that the trial of Kutesa hasn't been stopped, hasn't ceased. What the court has just said is, you hold it, you go and constitute
until you get an IJJ who will say he has no case.
And I think that that, in my view, is an erroneous conclusion, because does it mean that if a person hasn't been appointed to an office, there's an acting capacity, that person cannot therefore execute the function of that office? It doesn't. It doesn't actually say so, because if that then is a problem, then perhaps the entire cabinet would not be fully constituted and therefore could not carry work, because we know that there are vacancies.
Before they've been sworn
in the cabinet.
Do we have an appointed principal judge?
Yes, we do have an appointed principal judge in Justice and he's an excellent guy. My only problem is I'm a lawyer. I can't talk about judges here. What I think should be done is that this decision must be subjected to a Supreme Court decision.
The Supreme Court?
Now, the Supreme Court is not fully constituted to hear constitutional appeals. They can hear civil appeals, because to hear a constitutional appeal requires 7 judges. There are only 5, so they cannot hear a constitutional appeal. Now, I think that we need to constitute the court quickly, get ourselves.
The point why I would like to guide us and the listeners. Can you now say that the constitutional court system is not fully constituted? It can't be business. Because you can't say that the IJJ is not fully constituted and therefore can't prosecute him.
No, of course not.
It was right to investigate him.
Of course not. Because prosecutorial functions has been invested in the IJJ, in the institution of the IJJ. And as we speak now, there is such institution created by the Constitution. Where the vacancies haven't been filled in that department, in my view, is irrelevant. What is relevant is that there's a constitutional body with somebody in acting capacity who should be able to carry out its function, because the IJJ under our Constitution has prosecutorial mandate over issues of corruption, abuse of office, and the enforcement of the Leadership Code of Conduct.
Yeah, I don't disagree with my colleagues, because I think we really need a proper legal interpretation of these scenarios. the acting capacity, what does it mean legally?
Yes.
Does it specifically refer to an individual or the office being functional and operational? I think these are very important issues that need clarification.
But then I think
something must also be put right regarding the two pronouncements, so the legal position of the same court on the same matter in different instances.
And they did it on Alcon.
I think we need to benefit from that. You know, now which one does one take? Which precedent is one taken? Because those contradictions can really create confusion and can make the administration of justice not very predictable. I think it needs to be predictable, and those clarifications legally must be made in the interest of the public.
Right. Yeah. Mr. Mayanja.
Well, briefly, Edmond, I would just say that the George Orwell animal farm scenarios wouldn't have been played out any much better than this. It is very unfortunate. It is raising many questions. We have started thinking that maybe the IGIG's office is not fully constituted on purpose, because it's a matter of the president appointing somebody, but it has taken quite a while.
2 years. Well, he says he hasn't found the right person. I mean, Honorable Sebalu is here. I think he
you could think that it is all done on purpose. That we will move like this. Then if something comes, we shall challenge it this way, and it is a bad day for Uganda. But lastly, the courts and the lawyers need to help this country. They need to come out and tell us whether this is what. But more important, there is that pronouncement. I was also questioning, why should somebody get a bail from the High Court? And this is a decision of the High Court.
Yes.
And the lawyers need to help us. And then a lower court
cancels it.
Quashes that decision. I thought that it was because there is separation in your judicial levels. I think there is some problem there. I think that's very.
Yes, how has it been clarified? That has now been clarified in this judgment that once somebody is committed to the High Court, the bail doesn't lapse automatically. The bail subsists.
This has come because it was anticipated that the bail for Honorable Sam Kutesa, Rukutana, and Nasasara was going to lapse. So can you? It's not personal. What is injustice? On the same road. Injustice anywhere is a threat against justice everywhere.
Martin Luther King.
You have Mr. Cheye at his advanced age.
10 years jail.
Over 100 shillings. Not billions we are talking about like these ones. He's having 10 years and even must pay. Now we are saying that the same IGIG that prosecuted him then was right when it was not fully constituted.
He might get a presidential pardon.
I mean, and then we say now for this one is student. If it is wrong, then all the others who were prosecuted by this IGIG should get out. So my issue is the court that this court has no backbone. No. But if you want me to get more justice, I would doubt it.
Something like that. Yeah, very briefly. Now, regarding the Cheye position, given this kind of ruling they have made, is there any retrospective due consideration that this one was handled by an IGG was not fully constituted? How is it in law? Can you benefit from this?
They have pronounced themselves and they have said that for those who were prosecuted by this non-existent IGG, they can stay in reserve. For you yourself.
No, then that.
I mean, if
disturbing.
Yeah, but, and that's my point. That these fellows were under influence.
Disagreeing with the system.
They were under influence.
Dr. Bingu Wamutarika passed away. Honorable Michael, this is a man I met during Chogam. I had a discussion with him about 20 or 30 minutes. He struck me. I'd followed him when he was still in the World Bank. And I was very impressed by his credentials. Finally, I met him in 2007. I spoke to him for about 30 minutes and a discussion, and he explained to me the concept of the super minister. I'd never understood it. And I thought was very, very intelligent. How did you read? But his failure to run the economy was dismal. I was shocked by the contradiction. He's a very sharp man, but then he was running the economy badly, telling of the British, which brought the economy to its knees.
Actually, technically, he was a well-grounded person, you know, having risen to the ranks. He was the World Bank economist at one point, and he had quite good credentials in that area. But managing politics could be a different thing. You know, implementation, managing, and planning could be a different kettle of fish. So when it came on the ground, definitely there have been issues ranging from his former, from the political party he was in, and then the kind of changes he made to another party, and then dealing with his former. So basically, I can say he's had challenges, more so from the economic front.
But challenges have come, but how you respond to them is what matters. He's apparently done worse than his predecessors.
Yeah, I would agree. It has something to do with his personality. Some people indicated that he was not very good at taking advice.
Right.
He really believed in himself.
Had to advise himself. They used to call him,
and that was a bit of a problem.
They used to call him economist in chief.
The president of Malawi is still President Mutharika.
There might be a reshuffle, you saying?
Yeah. He is the only president, even when he's pronounced dead by doctors, must wait and pass the point of his president take over from him. So he is dead and alive. Because the vice president who is there is not the one who is supposed to take over from him, and they are in a crisis. So the dead body must wait until it appoints a substantive vice president who is agreeable.
They said they had to take him to South Africa because there were no cooling, no refrigeration facilities in Malawi in the hospital.
Yeah, because you must treat the dead body in such a way that it appoints a vice president who will now take over. That's the questions that they are having. Those who are saying he's dead are doing it outside the law. It's not that the High Court there has no jurisdiction here.
Nicholas, interestingly, he's a man who came into power with Rwomushana as a partner. Then he comes back and he leaves his own party, forms another party. The vice president forms another party. That's an interesting scenario they had there.
Yeah.
As
well, I mean, I will just summarize since we don't have much time.
Right.
You know, in 2 words. I mean, there was a joke that was making the rounds online that when he got married, he therefore lost it. He became arrogant. He became
when he got married.
Yeah, he was so controlled by his wife. But the more important point that I want to note is what Charles Nyangobo wrote a couple of months ago, that the death of an African leader of that age has denied Africans the chance to see a president in diapers.
A president
in diapers.
Vincent Mayanja.
Well, if it is true that President Bingwa Mutharika is dead, then we have to send our condolences to the Malawian people. But I've been trying to read his rule. I think the first time was perfect for him. The economy was doing well. Then he tried to stand on his own and tried to dispraise.
He went out of his own party.
Oh yes, no. He dispraised the former masters. That is the colonial powers, and these guys can do anything to any country. And I think they are the source of his woes, and he was so proud that he didn't want to admit.
Well, they didn't kill him.
Our time is up.
So I think those pressures are the one that brought about the attack.
Well, thank you very much.
We are very sorry.
Mr. Nicholas Opiyo,
from his own party that nurtured him.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mike Sebalu. Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, Vincent Mayanja, and Charles Rwomushana. I've been your host. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. So Spectrum will be back on Tuesday. Up next is the news in English. Have a very blessed Easter weekend.
So welcome to the Theatre of Dreams, which is Manchester United.